welcome back to Aether. This is Satomi and Paul and Gigi from sakaso.ca. Yeah.
Welcome back to today's episode. And today we're going to be doing part 7 of our little mini-series on how to heal with the psychic. So Aether episode 47 here. And as always, questions and comments are welcome. It's great. It really helps the conversation here. So it's not just one directional. We know that we're getting through and we're connecting with you guys, and we love hearing your feedback, and we can address your direct questions. So what is going on in your life? We can do what we can here on this broadcast to work through it and see what we can get to help you out with. Of course, please subscribe and share and like and all that good stuff. And so welcome back and thanks for coming.
So what we're starting. Where are we starting today?
So where we left off last time was on self-doubt. So I'll just put that up here. Because it's going to kind of transition into today's episode, because there's so much that gets in the way of healing when you're talking about self-doubt, as we talked about last time, because ultimately we need to heal ourselves. We're connecting with our authentic selves, and our authentic selves are absolutely all about faith and being able to move into this moment, be in this moment, and have that confidence that what you're doing in this moment isn't going to cause your world to fall apart, right? The bottom isn't going to drop out, which is something that I was constantly in fear of. I don't know how far that fear went back, but at least into my teenage years for sure. That stayed with me for a very large part of my life. There was just an inherent fear that the bottom was going to fall out at any moment, and it was going to be because of the choices that I made.
Okay.
Right? For whatever that might be, because some little socially awkward thing that I did, right? Some life choice that I made, just being there was subject to judgment and criticism and all that great stuff. So I was just racked with self-doubt. It's something that I don't know if I've fully worked through at this point, right? Sure, I could say 90%, but is it complete? I don't know, right?
How do you know it's 90% if you've never experienced 100%?
I don't know.
Right?
That's a fair question. I don't know, right? So I'll just say it's enormously, ridiculously improved from where it was. So yeah. Yep.
So self-doubt, that's pretty much like not having confidence in yourself. So when you have self-doubt, you tend to take other people's opinion.
Yes.
Right? And sometimes everybody has different opinions. Right? Oh, you should do this, and one said, and then the other one said, oh, you shouldn't do that, right? The other one said, oh, you should do that one, and then everybody has different suggestions or advice, and then you get confused, right?
Well, especially because the last person that I felt that I should believe is myself, right? No matter what it was. So that self-doubt, made me not like myself either too, right? Which is something we'll talk about if we have time for in the sessions. We'll get into deprecation, self-rejection, self-loathing. That's another big part of what I created in my early life, right? Yeah, but you're exactly right. I mean, listening to other people and expecting them to guide me and to provide me the answers to what's best for me. That's what I used to do, right? And that's not a healthy thing to do. It's not something we ever purport to do for any clients that we work with. We don't provide advice, right? And advice is free, generally speaking, and it's kind of worth what you pay for it. So, with a little grain of salt, right? And so many people are just kind of chomping at the bit, champing at the bit or chomping at the bit. I don't know which one's right. To give that advice to everybody all the time. And some people are wanting that advice, like me, like in the past, right? I was wanting to have someone advise me and tell me what's best. But by working with you, you were able to get me past, like, fears would come up at different times, and that's when I would get angry or something like that, because anger is just a different version of fear. And I would think that you're criticizing me, my work or something like that, right? And you would point it out that, no, it's not what I'm thinking. It's not you. It's not that I'm doing a bad job, or you're not appreciating the work that I put into it, or anything like that. You're not being critical of me. It's actually, if I look at it, there's an element of self-doubt in what I was doing, right? There's an element of not having faith in what I do. And so because of that, I was able to get past that at some point. I don't know exactly when.
It's pretty, it's not clear what you are talking about. So I'm having hard time following here. So I would, if you can give me some example what you're talking about, then I can say it like that. We don't give anybody advice. And so what do you mean by that? And when they come to see me, let's say for reading, what's that I'm delivering?
So sure, yeah.
Right? So
you can explain that. I mean, you want me to?
From your point of view, because I don't know what you are talking about.
What you're always doing, you're never actually inputting your opinion when you're doing a reading. And that took me a while to learn, right? Because I was so used to everybody injecting what they thought should be the right thing for me to do. I was expecting that from you, right? And I don't know how many times you had to tell me and remind me that you were never in a reading, never actually doing that. You were only simply passing along the messages that you were receiving from my guides, right? So that was a huge revelation for me, and something I needed to train myself literally to get over, that expectation of receiving advice, right? And you knew that giving advice was not going to be helpful and then not healthy, not just for me, but to anybody.
So when people come to the session with us, like for reading, yes, I'm just delivering what I receive. So when they come to us for healing session, and then what are we doing? Like, instead of giving advice, what are we doing?
For a healing session, we're working with the messages that you've received from a client's guides. If I'm the client, then you're receiving messages from my guides, and you're passing those messages back to me, but then you're also seeing how that fits the troubles I'm having. So we didn't have that work this out as a perfect example here ahead of time. So let's see if we can come up with one example, maybe to help people understand. Let's see. We were talking about my work a lot. Maybe we can work with that one, and how I would get frustrated with my work. I would not have faith in my own decisions about, anything to do with finances, right? So that's one thing, that I did not have faith at first in my abilities to make choices that would be good for business, right? So in other words, do we spend more money on marketing, for example, right? Is that a good idea? Or, working on this particular campaign, right? Or that kind of thing, or working on this particular kind of blog post, right? So I would doubt my ability to make good choices there. And that would leave me with a fear that I wasn't making good choices, and that the bottom could fall out, and we wouldn't be able to, bring in an income through this business, through the work that we do, and that. So I had doubts about that, and that made me make not very good choices when I was interacting with you.
Okay.
So.
And so you said
I would work too hard. I would work too hard. For
if
one.
you are a client right now, right? So let's say you're working with me, and then so instead of giving you advice, what are we doing with your words? So it's not advice, then what is it?
Well, you would, like, for example, you would say, like, you can carry on with this direction where you're working so hard that you're wearing yourself down, and you can keep posting blogs, one a week or something every single week, but it's not going to be productive in the way that you're hoping for, right? That's not advice. Advice is don't work so much on the blog. Work on a different area in the business, in for helping people out, whatever it is. Maybe work on YouTube videos or something, right?
Okay. So what are we providing?
What are we providing? So you're providing that feedback, saying, going this direction. You're not saying not to do it, but you're saying that if I do, it's not going to be produce the results that I'm looking for, right? It's not going to reach as many people as I hope. It's not going to help them move forward. It's not going to help us, maintain income. So that's different. That's explaining the outcomes of making decisions. That's very different than advice, right?
So advice is not that.
No.
I thought advice is like it's not something that they're telling you. That I don't think it's an order, right? And advice is advice.
Well, advice is like, it's not necessarily an order, right?
Yeah.
But it's like, if it was me, I would do this, right? Right.
It's a
advice. That's advice. I would recommend that you do this, right? When you say I recommend, that's advice.
Okay.
Right. So and you never did that. You've never done that with me, as far as I'm aware.
Your case especially, because you are like a boom, red light. As soon as I said something, anything close to even if I just 1 millimeter close to, it's not. It's way far away from telling you what to do, but if you sense, even if I'm not doing anything, not telling you or anything, giving you advice or recommendation, you can take it, and then you're telling me that I'm not doing the right thing, and so that's the case. It's not everybody. I don't treat everybody the same way, and you with you, I have to work in a certain way, and I like if you want to do this, you can do this. If you want to keep going this way, go ahead. Right? I'm just receiving these messages. It's not me, and then if you don't want to hear from my mouth, and go somewhere else, right? Go see other psychic, right? But so it's how I work with you, and sometimes some people need more push, right?
Yeah.
And then with you too, like I've been gentle, and then there's a choice, and then you can choose, and then if you are not doing what I'm receiving and avoiding, and sometimes the voice gets louder and louder, voice from the higher self or spirit guides, and then once in a while, like you've got to do this, right? So,
yeah. Well,
and that's not an advice.
I don't know if you've ever said that to me. That you've got
I remember one time.
One time you did?
I did. I was like, and you probably don't remember because you're so mad, so mad, and that's why you don't remember. But yeah, I remember because it's like, oh my god, and yeah, so. It depends on the client. Because everybody's different, everybody's situation is different, and I receive how to. So with this person, you go this way. You can, if you say this way, this phrase in this way, that person's not gonna get it, kind of thing, right? So. I feel it, and when I feel resistance, as soon as I feel resistance, they put in a wall, so they're not going to receive it. If they're not going to receive it, the message is just going to garbage, right? So I always ask how I can deliver, so better chance that they receive it, right? And so your way is different from other people's.
So yeah, and if people aren't necessarily understanding the connections here, I'll try to break it down. So in my case, since I had been gaslit for my whole life, gaslighting means to, if you're not familiar with the term, basically it's when somebody challenges your perception of reality. So basically saying, you've got it all wrong. You can't, you have no clue what's going on, right? And you don't know how to figure it out, right? Or whatever it is, right? So they're really challenging your sense of being able to make sense of the world and to perceive things in a reasonable way and think it through for yourself, right? So if somebody attacks that, and that's what I was under my whole life, was under that influence, which is a narcissist kind of approach in the people who are around me. That gaslighting resulted in me completely doubting myself and completely disliking myself, right? I was not really worth anything, right? I had no self-worth, no self-confidence, no faith, nothing, right? Just, it was, and so, and I just liked everything about myself, right? I just liked the way I looked. I just liked the way I went about doing my life, the way I interacted with people. I was completely like so socially awkward. You guys couldn't possibly understand. But I mean, at one point I was literally terrified of talking to people. It was pretty bad. So I'm opening up and trusting you to provide me with some guidance in some sense. I'm sensitive to you telling me that I don't know what I'm doing, or I'm sensitive to you giving me that, telling me I have to do this or that, right? So basically saying that what I did, or especially saying what I did was wrong, and that I need to do it. I need to completely change everything. So if I detect any of that in what you're saying, that is a trigger for my PTSD. This is what it is.
Like it's not like you're not detecting. I'm not giving you any of that.
Oh,
I am aware that
I know.
But you it's not like you sensing. You are
creating. I'm reading it into what you're doing.
It's
So
more like
I'm ready to interpret what you're saying. Your feedback, no matter how gentle, no matter how unjudgmental you are, non-judgmental that you are, no matter what, I'm ready to interpret it from that perspective. That's the way it used to be, right? That's it used to be.
So
I would make it look, to me, it would look like that, even though that's not what you're doing, right? So it took me a while to figure that out, right? So that's kind of what we're trying to get at here in this session. Is that
so that's
right
a
there?
Self-doubt.
It's a self-doubt, and it's a self degradation and dislike that anything about myself that comes from all the gaslighting and that I got from my experience with other people who are ready just all the time to come after me and tell me that I'm completely wrong, I'm completely worthless, all that kind of stuff, right? And that everything I do is wrong, no matter what I do.
It's like if I find, if I find a glass full of water on the table, and I say, "Oh, there's water here, half full," and then let's say that's what I said, and you would take. I didn't drink it. Why are you looking at me and then accusing me that I drank the water, right? It was literally like that, right? That the glass of water didn't happen, but so I just said there's a glass of water half full, and then boom, translation.
I would interpret that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I would read into that, and I would do the thinking for you.
Yeah. The thinking in here, but somewhere it's just you create. That's a self-doubt.
Yes. It comes from self-doubt. It comes from self-hatred. It comes from self-rejection. But I'm kind of looking for you to take on that abusive, gaslighting, judgmental perspective that that's all I grew up around, right? That's it, right? That's the way it was. And so that's why I was giving you responses that are along those lines. And that's why I had to get over that in order to receive what you're able to provide in terms of the psychic input. So you would tell me at certain points, right? I would even volunteer sometimes. I'd say, maybe this is coming from self-doubt. And you'd say, yeah, right? You'd let me know that if that was in the picture at all, that was underlying the problem for me, right? Is if self-doubt was creeping into it, then that was where the real problem was,
Mm-hmm.
right? Doesn't matter what all the other pieces were on top of it. Self-doubt was underneath that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a lack of faith and a lack of trust in myself,
Mm-hmm.
a lack and appreciation of myself, right? So that's what it really comes down to is that all of those things.
Mm-hmm.
So how did I get over that?
With my patient.
That's
extreme
it's a
patient.
very good question, right? How did I learn to get past that so that I was able to, in other words, there's several things going on there. Is just simply reading into what you're doing is another thing, right? That reading into it could be coming from a different direction, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm going to heal with psychic input, I
Mm-hmm.
can't interpret what you're saying
Mm-hmm.
as, first of all, your opinion,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
I have to understand that you're simply relaying what guides are wanting me to know, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
That number one, I have to come to that, and it took me a while, right?
Long time.
Yeah. It took me a while to really come to terms with that.
Especially relationship between us, right? That's why I used to tell you that go see other psychic, because if you listen to those words that I'm receiving and it's coming out of my mouth, sounds like I'm telling you do this, and you're doing this, you're doing that, right? I'm just making a sound that doesn't have the sound. I'm just adding the sound.
Spirit doesn't have the sound, so you're giving the sound. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's it. So you can hear it, right? But and then you get emotional because family member, you get emotional and you get angry, right? And if it's other psychic, you control yourself, right? Okay, but you don't. And then, like for me, if it's a client, you have a session, let's say 1 hour, and then that person is gone. I don't have to see that person until next time they show up, right? But here, after the reading session, you're still here.
I'm still right there.
Angry, and then so it was really tough, especially at the beginning, right?
Yeah.
And then you try interpret so many, like you take it to extreme like translation, interpretation, like that. And then many times over and over, I didn't say that, and I'm just saying this. This is just the fact. This is what happened, and I didn't say that you are doing it wrong. That was a phrase. Like I know I never say that. I don't because I know, because I don't think that way, right? If I don't think that way, it wouldn't come out of my mouth, right? If you are thinking that way, there's a chance that will come out. Especially when you're upset and having argument or something, it might slip out. But I know that I'm not thinking that at all. Then I can. That's the proof that I didn't say that. The memory tells me that I didn't say that, and also my inside inner voice said, "Because I don't think you're doing it wrong. I'm just saying this. It's a choice, right? Choice of doing this way, choice of doing that way. This way might create some pain and some stuff, right? Issues. But this is wrong. This is right. I don't see things that way, right?
Right.
So then
That took me a while to separate that, because we always have that choice, right?
Mm-hmm.
We can take what you're saying
Mm-hmm.
and listen to it and say, okay, she says going this way is going to lead to more pain. Keeping doing what I'm doing is going to create more pain.
Mm-hmm.
But if I take this into account, if I choose this other option that you pointed out, that one avoids that pain. Right? So it's not it's automatic judgment on my part to receive what you're saying and then label this one as wrong and this one as right. Right? So you didn't do that, but my perception has been that's been so ingrained into the way that I've learned how to live my life.
Always divide things right or wrong.
Right or wrong. Yeah. So I had to slow it down and not put a label of right or wrong on it, because ultimately, and this is just our way of looking at things. We do still have the choice of carrying on to keeping the same, doing the same thing, right? That's our free will, right? That pain can lead to us getting to a point where we bounce off of that way of being hard enough to go into a very different way of looking at things that's actually very helpful. So in other words, I mean, that's the way I look at my illnesses, right? And the experience of my life that I took, going through all that pain that I went through growing up and all that gave me the opportunity to go through doing things in a really goofy way, right? Full of judgment and self-doubt and all those other things, and fear and everything, and then experiencing so much pain with it that I needed something different. And then when you came along and you said, well, I can keep doing that same thing, or there's this other option, right? At some point, I didn't listen to all those things right away, as you know, right? I listened to some of them. I would take pieces, right? And I worked with what I could, but I couldn't necessarily change all those directions right away, right? So for whatever reason, it was a progressive thing for me to take on pieces at a time and use the general experience of going this way and running into so much resistance and pushback from the pain that I bounced off of it, right? And I've been discovering a new way since, right? More aligned with what you've said would be helpful for me, right? Would be less painful. So it's not as though not listening right away was wrong, right? It led to different kinds of experiences. And at some point, I was ready to listen to lesson number 20. Right?
Like
tip number 20. Right? At some point, I was able to listen to. I had to work on tip 1, 2, and 3 first before I got to 20.
There's a path here. She's saying this path, but there's a path here.
Yeah.
Let's go here, and you get stuck on, and then this way or this way again. I'll take this way. I'll listen a little bit, but I'll stay on this side, right? And then you hit a wall again, and then there's a pass this way and this way, and then at the end of doing 20 readings, and it's like this normal branching off it, just going this way, right? It's kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, and then that's not wrong. That's your choice.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think this episode has turned into more about judgment And that's okay, because part of what I did want to talk about was self-judgment. So
But self-doubt, it becomes self-judgment. Is that what you mean?
self-doubt comes from the self-judgment, right? Ultimately, I think judgment is a very, very deep thing that leads to a lot of other things.
Like it's overlapping, right?
Yeah.
You cannot divide those two clearly.
I would
Self-doubt
say
and
so.
self-judgment.
Yeah.
Well, which one's coming first? I don't know. It's hard to tell.
To me, I think the judgment comes first. But that's a we don't necessarily need to get into that in this episode. That self-doubt that I had led also to self-rejection and self-hatred, right? Which was very detrimental to me.
So self-rejection, what do you mean by self-rejection?
Well, not liking, let's say, the way that I looked, or the way that I sounded, or the way that I did things, the way that I was able to write, or to express myself, or just socialize,
so it's different from self-judgment.
They're connected again. Yeah. So to me, the judgment is necessary before the rejection.
And then that's same as not loving yourself.
Yes. So that led into the lack of self-love or self-hatred. And all of those things, they stand between me and being able to hear what you say. Right? So if I simply doubt myself, my ability to make decisions, I may not listen. I may not taking information from you and working with it is a risk, right? There's an inherent risk in me trusting the validity of what you're saying. Right? So, because it's different than what I've been doing up till now, right? That for no other reason, right? Simply because I've been doing it this way, and you're pointing out there's an alternative over here. That to me is the unknown.
Yeah,
right?
unknown plus the way you have been doing made you the present you.
Yes.
Right?
And I got to here. I survived up to this point.
You got to here, and then switching and doing different things could be interpreted that you were doing it wrong, right? Like a massive way, and then that you didn't want to.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
You're saying this way is the way out. That means you are telling me that I have been doing it all wrong.
Yes,
right?
Exactly. That's exactly what I've been trying to get at in this whole episode. Is that exact message that you're talking about right now?
It could be pride for someone like that. I'm right. Right. What I've been doing is wrong. That means all the pride goes down.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so lots of people are scared of that, don't want that happen.
Yeah.
And
in my case, it was different because it was basically, it's hard for me to tell the difference between what you're saying and the gaslighting that I used to be getting. Right. So it was activating my PTSD. So another person might be like you're saying, who's more prideful, they would lose, they would be subject to their own judgment, self-judgment, as being in the wrong all this time, if what you're saying is true, right? If what you're saying is accurate, then I missed the boat way back when, and I made just a decision that created. You mean I'm responsible for this crap? in my life, right? Is that what you're suggesting, right?
Yeah. So but those how you receive, right, is in the subconscious mind, right? That's programmed. That's why you receiving the message, or you there's a way out this way, and shift your path into this way. You might be able to heal, right? And then you interpreting that you are telling me that I have been doing it wrong, or something like that. That's simply subconscious programming, right? And no, I'm not saying that you have been doing wrong. You've done so many, and it could have helped. It probably some degree it's been helping, right? It's been helping you to get here, and so that's why now there is a path. You found a path, right? So you needed the whole process coming up to here, and then I'm not denying that you did it wrong, but it's just interpretation, and subconscious mind tells you that, and then you the self-doubt or pride or ego, it stops you from taking that new path sometimes, right?
So maybe it was just to help me understand one thing you said there. It sounded like you said you're not denying that you're saying that they did it wrong. So can you
like
explain that?
Let's say that maybe the path you took was a necessary path somehow. Sometimes you could avoid. Sometimes it just you plan to go on that path, right?
But we just said earlier that it's not right or wrong. It's just that this way led to some pain, and that other way leads away from the pain. So putting the right wrong is a layer of judgment, right?
And that's subconscious.
So you're not saying that it's wrong.
No.
Oh, okay.
No, I never say, oh, you did it wrong.
Okay, got it. Okay. Yeah.
So
there's just a little language there that got tripped up. Okay.
So yeah. So that's just the path you've taken, right? And maybe you could have avoided to have pain and those things, but we taking lessons, so many lessons in our lives, right?
It's complicated. Life is complicated and not easy, right?
There's no smooth 100%. Everything is good kind of life exists, right? There's always something challenges, and then we learn from challenges, right? And so if you don't have any challenges, that means you haven't learned anything, right? And why you are here, right?
So what you're saying then is that, let's say I made a decision that led to pain, and maybe hurt someone's feelings, and my relationship with them is kind of split. That person is important to me, and it's been a long time like this and very painful for me. And then I come to you and talk to you about it, and you say, well, there is this over here, right? You've been doing it this way. What I'm receiving is that there's an alternative, right? How do I receive that? So I could, like we mentioned it there, just momentarily, we said some people could be like, are you saying that I've been doing it wrong all this time, right? So, and for me, that's a PTSD and self-doubt thing. Another person, it could be a prideful thing, right? So like, but they're both judgment. They're both adding the judgment of, oh, that means I was wrong, right? Are you saying that I've been wrong all this time? I've been doing it wrong, and that it's my fault, right? So there's a blame, like a lame blame thing, right? That's not what you're saying.
No.
You're saying it's been okay to go this path. It's opened up an opportunity over here at this point, right? That's all you're saying. Nothing more.
Maybe more, but simplified, yes.
Yeah.
That's
Right.
And,
but you're not laying judgment on top of it.
No.
You're not saying the other person
Why,
has been
like that,
in the wrong all this time.
Like judgment doesn't give me anything.
I know. Yeah.
Why? It doesn't
It's just
benefit me anything.
The reason why people engage in that way, in living life that way, is that we tend to feel better about ourselves
That's
if we.
illusion.
Yeah, that's an egoic thing, but it's a very human thing.
Yeah, but for me, it creates pain. Having judgment creates pain.
Well,
so
it's inevitable because, like you just said, right? Life is incredibly complicated, and there's no way of making your way through life and making all the right decisions and everything at every point, and being without any reason for for reevaluation, right? Forget about criticism. Just there's no reason for, maybe a different choice, right?
Yeah.
That nobody has that kind of life. It's too complicated, right? So when you say, well, there is an alternative here, that is in no way saying that they're in the wrong, that they've been in the wrong all this time, right? And however, it is actually their choice, right? Because that's what the message. You're not going to be giving messages so much about things that are not in my ability to take action. So guides are not going to be telling me things like, oh, that other person could have taken action and it's their fault. That's why you're in this situation, right? No, their focus is on what I can do, right? And moving forward, right? And making the best out of it, right? Whatever it is.
And
right?
then
Growing from it.
you can say you only successfully proved yourself that what you've done didn't work. Right? So so I've done this way and proved myself that this is not helping. So let's shift, right? So just simply that, right? That's not, if you didn't take this path, you wouldn't have known, right? That for somebody, this path is a successful healing path, right? And for you, it wasn't. Doesn't mean that you did wrong. No, you just tried it, and you have to see. You have to try and see, right? And then you did it, and then okay, this is not for me, and let's move on to the next one. So it's just successfully tested.
So one of the things I wanted to talk about here to tie this a little stronger because of the way we planned this to that self-judgment, self-hatred, right? And self-rejection. And that ties to what you're saying right now. We make choices and we go down certain paths in our life, right? There's no way that we can expect ourselves to, like we said, to make all the perfect choices. That's not how life works for anyone. Not a single person on earth that's ever lived at any point, except maybe, I don't know, Jesus or something, right? I don't know. But the key to this whole thing about avoiding where I ended up, right, with all that self-hatred and self-rejection, and all that pain, all the pain that goes with it, is to love the person that falls down. I mean, when we learn to walk, learning to walk means learning to fall first. That's the first thing you learn, is how to fall, right? Before you learn how to walk, you're trying to stand up. Oh, bam, right? Face down, right? And that's the way life is. We fall down. That's human. That is the essence of being human, and that's the essence of life, is falling down. So all that stuff that we bring in about judgment simply gets in the way, and makes more pain, and kind of invades the reality of the fact that we need to fall down. It invades that reality and makes it into something ugly. It makes it into something painful, right? So, and it makes it into a place where I'm not going to be able to receive what you say. If I'm being all judgmental, right, and I hear you say, well, there is another choice, right? I'm going to, like we were saying earlier, I can receive that wrong for different reasons, but essentially it comes down to judgment, right? It comes down to judging myself and also judging you as being, oh, you're, being mean, or, thinking you're better than me or something because or something, right? Whatever, right? All that kind of crazy stuff that we project onto the world and make up stories about everything, right? So I've done that with you, right? And that's how not to work with a psychic, to learn from them, right? And that created difficulties with our relationship in different places. We had a few little, a little bit of this. Little ones, little innocent ones, right? So that stuff doesn't help. So putting that aside and simply accepting that we all fall down. That's the nature of living on this planet, and that's the way. To me, that's the way through judgment. That's the way past it. It's one of the work for me is one of the most powerful exercises you can do is to do exactly what's on the screen there, is to look in the mirror, do some self-examination, write down the things you don't like about yourself, right? And then love that person, right? I'll write this up here. This is so powerful. This is from Thaddeus Golis, from the Lazy Man's Guide to Enlightenment. I've got to type this carefully.
Okay.
So basically it comes down to this. We're taught to love ourselves in spite of our flaws, to value what we consider to be our successes, our abilities, the things that are, features of ourselves that are supposedly great, whatever they are. And then all the other things we try to hide, we push them away, all that kind of stuff. This is really, really deep, heavy duty stuff. And it does no service to you, and you cannot win that battle. I tried. You can't. You cannot fight yourself. You can't reject yourself. You can't hate yourself. You can't do any of those things. That part of yourself that you wish wasn't there, whatever it is, if you, instead of pushing it away, you actually embrace it and you love yourself because of it. You love yourself because you fall down, right? Just one tiny example, being embarrassed. I used to go beat red for no reason all the time in social situations. I was incredibly self-conscious, right? So when I'd make a mistake, or maybe I'd say something that I thought might be a mistake and wasn't in any way offensive to anyone, but I thought it might be, I would just seize up and go beat red, right? Well, I learned this technique and I started getting better at it. And then at one point, I still flubbed up in some social situation. I don't know exactly what I said, but I started going red, right? It used to be in the past that was like a one-way street. I couldn't get out of it. I was stuck there judging myself, just red.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I realized what I was doing, starting to do. And then what I did is I loved myself because I was going red in my face.
Mm-hmm.
I loved myself because I said something goofy. Not in spite of it, because of it. And immediately I went right back to being normal and I could socialize. It's the only solution I've ever found. So anything about yourself that you dislike, that you don't love, that you hate, any of those things, that you don't trust, any of those things about yourself, if you love yourself because of it, any of your failings, all of them, the things that are considered to be failings, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you love yourself because of them, then it changes the dynamic completely.
Yeah, of course, if you hate that part, you are beating yourself up even more,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yes. And it just builds on itself,
mm-hmm.
right? So if you're beating up on yourself, then you're feeling bad.
Mm-hmm.
You have a reason to judge yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And so that comes back with more judgment,
mm-hmm.
right? And more self-hatred. And
mm-hmm.
it just, it oh my God, it escalates so badly, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's no way out of that as long as you are trying to split yourself between what you like and what you dislike,
Mm-hmm.
what you accept and what you don't accept,
Mm-hmm.
what you judge as wrong and what's right. All of those things, they are all come down to judgment. They are all, they do nothing but create pain, right? That is a one-way street to creating nothing but massive pain for your life. So simply doing that exercise that's on the screen right there can heal so much about someone's life. So much.
Yeah. It's like treating a child, right? No, you are not good. I hate you. And would that phrase empower a child? No.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Pretty much everybody knows, right? If you separate and then see on somebody else, right? Somebody treating badly, doing some negative thing toward the child, and you know that's not helping, but you can do it in yourself, right? And you doing it in yourself to yourself and treating yourself that little child, and then you're bad, I hate you, and those when you are doing it, right? And then if it's happening to somebody else that you know it's not helping, and why you are doing it to yourself.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. If it's not suitable to do to a child, why would you do it to yourself?
Yeah, like you know, that was okay. It was an accident. You didn't mean to do that. So I love you. I still love you, and that you know that would help the kid, right? You know that, and then it's the same thing toward yourself too, right? You want to love yourself. You made a mistake or whatever. You want to. It's okay. The next time, let's do your best next time, and then you don't know what's going to happen next time, right? So, and I still love you, right? It doesn't matter what happened, I still love you. That's what parents say to kids, right? And you want to have that relationship with yourself too.
Yeah, so that book right there that I've got on the screen is where I actually learned that from in my spiritual studies. He says it beautifully in that book. It's a very thin, very easy read. He does have some other books. I don't really recommend them, but that one is brilliant.
You recommend other ones?
No, they're a little odd. So, and I hope I spelled his name right, but anyway, it's close. Yeah, so please practice that exercise if that's something, if you're having trouble with any kind of self-judgment, self-doubt, self-rejection of in any kind, and that'll get you past all that pain. And that's what I needed to do to heal from this wonderful psychic, with the help of this wonderful psychic. With the help of this wonderful psychic. So thanks for stopping in here. And if you're having any trouble with this stuff, you guys, then please schedule a breakthrough session with us. We can go deeper into it for you. Subconscious programming.
Having trouble letting go of self-doubt.
If you're still having trouble with letting go of self-doubt, self-rejection, self-hatred, any of those things, judgment generally speaking, then it's going to be because of subconscious programming. Like, for example, I've mentioned the PTSD. That is a form of my subconscious programming that I needed to get past. And the program that we have called Psychoso is the ideal way in order to work through that stuff and let go of that subconscious programming that we pick up in the early parts of our life, and to move past it and to grow as a result of it, and become who you really are and connect with that. And that's, involves a lot of working with Satomi, and receiving messages from your guides, and then using the right tools and having the right support there to help you through all that process with our 3-step Psychoso program. And so please stop by the website, and you can pick up some stuff from the shop as well to help you do your own exploration on any kinds of subconscious programming you might have that might be getting in your way. And so thanks for stopping by, and please like, share, and subscribe, and hopefully we'll see you soon. Take care.
Bye. See you next week.